We're teaching you how to master one battle, one behavior, one rule at a time. Then we deal with everything because we're just building your skill level with this stuff. That's all we're doing.
The main thing I struggle with is his attitude and ignoring what he's being asked to do.
If they have a bad attitude and they're rude to you, that's on you. You caused that, not them. Don't blame them for their bad attitude. Look in a mirror.
My child would like something from the store. I'll tell him first we need to go to a piano lesson, be an excellent listener, and listen respectfully to the teacher.
When you reward for good behavior, what you're saying to your child is you're normally rotten. If you should happen to be good, you'll get a treat. It's a disaster.
A lot of the people my age didn't love how they were raised.
I think that's it. They didn't feel they had a voice. They felt controlled. And then they also felt bad about themselves when they were rude to their parents. Welcome to the BratBusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at BratBusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, what is today's topic?
Okay, well, we're trying something different. We are doing a 7-part series on calm leadership parenting in general. So today is part 1. And I want this to kind of be like a place where if someone is brand new to you, they can come, they can listen to these or watch these 7 podcasts and get a general understanding of your approach, how you view parenting, a little bit about BratBusters, just a good starting off point.
Okay, what about the people who've already been listening?
You can tune out. No.
There'll still be stuff thrown in because we'll still be answering questions, won't we?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, she does all this work, so I really don't know what's going on. She did tell me, she ran it by me, but between you and I and her, because she's here so she can hear it, I don't really listen to her. When she says we're going to do this, I just, yeah, okay, we'll do it because I trust her.
The eyes glaze over. You have a look.
I do have a look for sure. It's like you when I'm talking about cleaning. I love cleaning. She doesn't. So, okay. So let's get started. You're the one who's organized all this. You tell me what to do here.
Yeah. So today is the foundations and core concepts of calm leadership parenting. So let's get right into it. What is calm leadership parenting in your opinion?
I don't like this question because it could be so many, it's just a lot to it. To me, it's about making kids feel good about themselves so that when they feel good, they do good. That's it. Making kids feel good about themselves because they're not going to be cheeky to someone who makes them feel good. And when they feel good, you think about it. When you feel good about yourself, it brings out the best in you, doesn't it? So that's all this is all about. And then I teach you how to do that. So if they feel good, they do good.
Okay. I think that the pool story is really one of your best stories for this.
It is. It sort of explains the whole thing. And it doesn't mean that I address bad behavior for sure. I don't ignore it at all. But I focus on the good kid. So that's what the pool story is all about. It's a really good example of everything I'm teaching. It's dealing with bad behavior when necessary, but then focusing on the good kid. And that's where you want to end. And by the way, we never discuss bad behavior. It's probably already covered. We're going to be watching this in a video I've already done because, as we all know, I drool and get a stomach ache if I have to say it again. I've told it thousands and thousands of times. And I just can't tell the pool story again. So that's why we're going to be watching a video I've already got on it.
Okay, I will start that now.
Okay, the pool story, it sort of sums up the way I treat children. And it's a true story. It was my son's 8th birthday. And we had a pool in the backyard. So, and I knew all these kids because I was always volunteering at school and I was always working with these kids at school. So anyway, so I had 5 little boys come over and I knew them all. And so there were 6 8-year-old boys. Now my husband had taken my daughter somewhere just for a while. I think they went to pick up the cake. We were having an ice cream cake. I think that's what they did. So they went to pick up the cake. And so here I am on my own with these 6 little 8-year-old boys in the swimming pool. So I'm outside the pool. And so I said, Whaley cannot go in the pool. Now, Whaley was a giant blow-up toy. These kids were 8. I didn't have a foot pump. I did not want to take the air out of Whaley. So I left it blown up, but I put it way off to the side. And I said, Whaley cannot go in the pool because all I'm doing here is counting heads. So I can't see behind Whaley. 3 of you could drown behind Whaley, and I couldn't even see it. So that's it. Okay, go in the pool, have fun. Sure enough, one of the kids brought Whaley in the pool. And it was a kid that I knew probably would. Anyway, so we brought Whaley in the pool. Now, I said to him, Whaley out of the pool now. Now, it was a safety issue. I didn't say please, nothing. He already knew. He just broke a rule. So when he said no to me, as soon as he did, my son just smiled because he knew mom was going to take action fast. Fully clothed, I jumped in the pool and dragged him out of the pool. And I said, you're going to sit with me for 10 minutes now. I didn't say why because he already knew, right? You don't discuss all this stuff. So, and my son got Whaley out of the pool. Now this kid's sitting beside me. I'm soaking wet now because I just jumped in the pool, and the other kids are playing, and I'm counting 5 heads in the pool now. And this is what I'm saying to this kid. He's sitting right beside me. I've got the time, my watch going. I'm looking at my watch. So I said, you got 10 minutes now. So I'm asking him about I said, oh, we did a test together, you and I helped you with that test. I hear you got 85%. Good for you. And also I saw you got a goal in soccer the other day. Good for you. And what's your favorite PlayStation game? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just connecting with him. I'm talking about him. I'm trying to build him up and make him feel good. Well, he's talk. And another thing I'm great at, another thing that I like, and me. So the 10 minutes is up. So I said to him, the 10 minutes is up. You can go back in the pool. I couldn't get rid of him. He kept talking all about himself. And I'm looking at my son like, help. So finally my son got back in the pool and it was done. But for the rest of that afternoon, like 3 hours of it, this kid was all over me. Can I help you with that, Lisa? Can I help you with that? Not only did he feel good about himself, but he was the biggest help at the whole party the rest of that day. But I couldn't get rid of him. Anyway, that's the pool story. Now, what did I do there? I laid down the rule initially. There was a couple other rules too, but I laid down the rule initially. And then when he broke the safety rule, I didn't say please or thank you. I didn't repeat myself. I just said, Whaley, out of the pool now. When he said no, I took action, dragged him out of the pool. And then I had him sitting down beside me. And I was very clear. I said, 10 minutes, you're going to sit with me now. I didn't say why. I don't discuss bad behavior. He already knows. They're not stupid. All these mini therapy sessions discussing bad behavior, it's a total waste of time. So anyway, then he's sitting beside me. He's sitting beside me for 10 minutes. During that 10 minutes, my goal is to make him feel good about himself. When they feel good, they do good. When they feel bad, they do bad. He already had enough of feeling bad. I dragged him out of the pool. That was probably a little bit embarrassing for him too, right? It was all over at that point. Then at the very end of that 10 minutes, I did not say to him, go back in the pool, but don't take Whaley in. If I had said, don't take Whaley in, would have wrecked everything. That would have reminded him, by the way, don't forget you're rotten. That's what you're literally saying to a kid if you do that. So I just said, okay, go back in the pool and have fun. All cheery, all positive. Not only did he not bring Whaley in the pool, he said to the other boys, oh, make sure you don't bring Whaley in the pool because it's dangerous. Lisa can't see behind it. You see the difference that made? So I'm focusing on the good kid, not the bad behavior. Okay, that was, turns out, agony to listen to, not just say. It's just, I've heard it so many times. Anyway, okay, so that's the pool story. I think it explains everything, really. Like my psychology behind it is I do deal with bad behavior. It's something that needs to be addressed and you need to have consequences, which was sitting with me. But then it's over. Once you've done it, don't talk about it again. And I would say one of the biggest mistakes parents make is discussing bad behavior. Everyone seems to want to do that. I don't do it at all. There's no point whatsoever. It just makes them feel bad.
Okay. Do you want to go into the difference between the authority style, the pleaser style, and then calm leadership?
Okay, the authority style is the old-fashioned way of parenting, in that my way or the highway. I'm your parent. You have to respect me, and this is the right way, and you have to do what I say, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's the old-fashioned authority. By the way, it's not a bad way to parent, but if they have it in them to be rebellious, they are going to rebel against that authority. As teenagers, they'll get sneaky. They're not going to tell their parents what they're up to, okay, because they know the authority is going to say, that's it, you're grounded. There's no discussion, right? So then what happened was I think people didn't want to be parented, or they didn't want to parent their kids the way they were parented, okay? Because the authority is sort of based on intimidation and fear. And parents didn't want to parent that way. They wanted to swing the other way. So the pendulum swung the exact opposite. They wanted to please their kids, ask their advice on everything. When do you want to go to bed? What do you want to wear? What do you want to have for lunch? And then, oh, you want to get participation awards for doing nothing. It's all this pleaser stuff. You're trying to make them happy, but it's the exact opposite. They never respect you before, during, or after when they're teenagers. They just don't, because you were not a leader for them. Okay, so the pleaser swung the other way. There's no rules, no structure, no consequences, basically. Also, the pleaser style can work for a little while when they're young. Okay, but by the time they hit about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, it'll backfire because they're going to go, wow, you don't know what you're doing. And they're going to take over. They never respect you. They're going to walk all over you. And they're going to turn into self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I'm exaggerating there, but I'm just trying to make a point. Okay, now, I don't teach either one of those. I teach leadership. Leaders are friends with your kids for sure. You play in their world. You don't expect them to rise up to your adult world. I would never say anything like this to a child. I would never get down on their eye level if they're upset and say, use your words. A leader does not talk like that. A leader meets kids where they are. Okay, you understand them, you meet them where they are, you meet their needs, and you manage their wants. And you're accountable also. Show them that you make mistakes too. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. There's no shame in that. But you be accountable for your mistakes and you don't yell. You stay completely calm when you're disciplining them, and you can be crazy during the happy times. But when you're disciplining, it's a business transaction, no emotions. Okay, stay completely calm.
I want to touch on something that you said there where you said the pendulum swung. And I think that that is where it does stem from what I see online, is that I think a lot of parents, a lot of them around my age, actually, I'm not a parent just for reference, but I think that a lot of the people my age didn't love how they were raised.
I think that's it. They didn't feel they had a voice. They felt controlled. And then they also felt bad about themselves when they were rude to their parents. So it's kind of lose, lose, lose. It's not great.
I think there was a lot of secrets as well,
Oh, for
where a
sure.
lot of hiding things from parents, and that just doesn't feel good either.
You see, I was born in 1960, and most of my friends were raised with the authority style. I wasn't. My mom was more of a leader. I told my mom everything. I could tell. My dad was more inclined to spoil me, so luckily my mom didn't allow that. And but yeah, I was raised by a leader back then, and it was not normal. Most parents were not leaders; they were all authorities. And then the pleaser, of course, came in more in the 70s. And you know where it started? And I'm not sure about this, but I remember seeing it coming in. It started when moms went back to work. There was guilt. It was based on guilt. And they thought, well, I don't see a lot of my kids. So when I do, I want to give them whatever they want. I sort of saw it start there. But then where it really kicked in is participation awards. That was the first sign when I thought, oh, we're in trouble here. We are in big trouble. But yeah, my parents weren't authorities, but it was more the norm back then. And I think, and my friends were always shocked that I told my mother everything. Okay. And they were shocked. And plus, they would tell my mom stuff too. She was just a lovely, warm person. I'd never been yelled at by either of my parents. I never yelled at my kids. Leaders don't yell.
Okay.
It doesn't mean we're perfect, but it means that we're vulnerable. We show that we're not perfect. We show that we do make mistakes. But I always felt very heard, very respected, and kindness towards me. I never felt resentment towards my parents.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, but I can understand how that could feel just so far-fetched if you were raised with the authority and that's all you really knew.
Well, and I don't know how far-fetched it sounds, because when people hire me for coaching, they always think, well, teach me how to do that. I think they think it's fetched, near fetched. What's the opposite of far-fetched? I think they think it's near fetched. Anyway, okay, I just made that up. Okay, obviously. But yeah, I think they think it's possible. They just don't know how to do it. And that's what I'm here to teach you, how to do this. Anyone can become a leader as a parent. I want to make it clear too, I'm not a leader in my personal life by nature. I'm very much a follower in my inner circle only, but I would rather be told what to do, like not every move, but where we go for dinner, what time we leave. I don't like planning anything. So you don't have to be a leader in your personal life, but I'm very much a leader with children, because that is in their best interest. That's what brings out the best in them, and that's what builds a really good relationship between you and your child.
Yeah, and then just final notes on the pleaser parent is I think that that is the stem of like what it created, is that these parents probably want to lean more into that method because they feel like that is going to give them the outcome of their kids coming and talking to them about things.
And you know what sells it is all of this mini therapy session talk. Because whenever you hear, and I've never followed any other parenting coach, but clients have told me what they've heard. And it's more this, well, discuss it, help them self-regulate, discuss all their big feelings and big emotions. What you're doing is you are feeding that parents their own feelings, what they felt that they missed out on. That's what you're feeding. That's what's encouraging parents to do this, because they go, you're right, I didn't feel heard. My parents didn't care about my feelings or my opinion. So that's what I'm going to do with my kids. But it just swung too far that way. It doesn't mean that I don't listen to kids' feelings, but I don't allow them to act out and be rude, basically. That's it.
Now, let's touch on the idea that your goal is not blind obedience.
I do not want obedient soldiers. I want children who have high self-esteem, a lot of confidence, they have a voice, and they have self-respect. Okay. I want them to make their own choices. They make a good choice, life's great. I used to say to my son, look, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life won't be so good. I'll make sure of that because that's my job. I'm your mom. In other words, it's all up to you. It's all your choice. I never micromanage my kids. I let them do whatever they want to do. But then if they made a poor choice, then I'd come in with a consequence. If you're trying to prevent bad behavior, you're trying to micromanage. I don't do that. I let them make their own choices. Then I come in later and say, oh, okay, that was kind of a bad choice. Here's the consequence.
And then the final thing before we get into the parenting questions is, do you want to go over your top 3 leadership qualities?
Oh, do I have those? Okay. I always go, I don't like these because it's only 3 and there's like 500 leadership qualities. Not 500 maybe. Okay. These are my top 3 that I've been forced to come out with. Number 1, you be calm during the storms. The storms is when you're disciplining or when they're acting out. You stay completely calm, show no emotions, and just treat it like a business. When you're talking to them when they're naughty and you need to hand out a consequence, there's almost a little bit of a lilt or a lift in your voice. I talk like this. I almost whisper too. I say, I'll tell you what, you made that choice. It wasn't a very good choice. So here's what we're going to do. See that little lift in my voice? It's like you're in total control. You're not the least bit flustered. So that's number 1, calm during the storms. Number 2 is a complete opposite. When everything's good and they're good, be crazy during the rainbows. That's the good times. That's when there's no discipline needed and you're just playing with your kids. I used to chase my kids with underpants on my head. My mom used to say to me, she goes, I don't know how you do it. She goes, because my mom wasn't goofy. I was very goofy with my kids. She goes, I don't know how you do it. She goes, you're the biggest goofball in the household and yet your kids respect you. How do you mix the two? I didn't really know how to answer that, but that is the answer. I play hard with kids. I'm crazy during the rainbows. I'm in their world. Okay. I'm doing stuff that makes them laugh, that makes them feel good, that makes them feel enjoyed. So that's why there's hardly any storms. Okay. They like the rainbow mom. They didn't want the stormy, non-emotional mom. Okay. And number 3, become a great listener. That's not so much when they're really little, but as they get older, especially, you want to be a really good listener. You listen to understand and show respect. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. Okay. So you're going to be listening and just go, yeah, that would be frustrating. I can see that. And then stop talking. If they want your help or advice, they'll ask for it. Allow them to make that decision. Don't you push your advice on them. And by the way, if they're teenagers or older kids, they already know what you're going to say anyway. They just want a shoulder to lean on. They want someone to understand them. They want to share. They want to share without judgment and without lecture.
Now, I feel like I get a little attitude every time I ask for the top 3 leadership qualities from you.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a 4th.
A 4th would be, oh, geez, now you put me on the spot because I don't want to, if I put 4, then it might not be as important as number 26.
Okay, we're going to preface by saying these are not in order of importance.
Okay. Another one would be stay on the same page as your partner because children do not like to see you argue. It upsets them. It makes them feel unsafe. And then I'll get the kickback, and I get this a lot in coaching. They'll say, but I've heard that it's important for them to see how you resolve conflict. No, it's not. They do not need to see parents argue. They learn how to resolve conflict by the way you deal with them. Okay. It scares them when they see parents arguing. It just does. Okay. So that's really important.
Do you want to go for a 5th?
Be on the same page. A 5th one. Yelling. I would say yelling is one of the most common things that parents do that they don't want to do, but it sometimes works in the moment, certainly when they're young, because it's based on fear and intimidation, and it's your loss of control. It scares them. So I would say yelling has far more of a negative effect on your children than you realize. They may look like they're immune to it, but it's in there. The seed is planted. They've been yelled at. It makes them feel bad. Have you ever had a boss or anyone who yells at you? See, I've never had that. I've only was yelled at once. I was in my 20s and it was a friend of a friend who had some kind of I don't know what happened to them. But anyway, it was the only time I've ever been yelled at. And it was quite shocking. I've never been yelled at before. So yelling is it's more damaging than you might think. And every single kid I've ever asked as they're older, looking back, would you have rather been yelled at or spanked? Every single kid has said spanked. Every single one. They find being yelled at more damaging than being spanked. I'm not saying you should spank or yell. Okay, I'm not condoning either one. But that's how much of an impact it has on them. Kind of gets into their psyche and makes them feel bad about themselves. And Also, yellers raise yellers. See, I've never yelled. I was never yelled at. So it does tend to go down the generations. And you can fix this. And I'm not judging you for yelling, because it does sometimes work and you were yelled at. And it's a normal reaction to yell, okay, if you don't know what else to do. I'm just teaching you what else to do. Most parents who hire me yell. And I say, yeah, just be honest. We're going to put no yelling as your rule on the behavior board. We're going to fix it. You'll know what to do instead.
As a little teaser, we will be having a whole episode on discipline. So we'll go more into that in a future episode.
Okay, well, you're in charge, so I don't know.
I am.
I don't know what we're doing.
I forgot to mention this at the very beginning. This probably should have been important to say, but we usually do podcasts every Tuesday and Thursday as of right now. We're going to be launching these in 1 week.
Yeah, because it will be sort of pillar content, the idea behind BratBusters and what it's all about and what we're teaching. Because a lot of people have been following me for years now, and they already get it. But if you're just new to BratBusters, these will be the 7 episodes that'll really tell you what we're all about. And you may go, yeah, that sounds really good. Or she doesn't know what the heck she's talking about. And then you can bail.
So prepare to get sick of us.
That's right. That's okay.
Okay, we'll just go right into the questions then. The first one is Stephanie from Canada, age 7-year-old boy. Example, my child would like something from the store. I'll tell him first we need to go to a piano lesson and be an excellent listener and listen respectfully to the teacher. If we do that, then we will stop at the store depending on the behavior and take a look at what you want. But at the piano lesson, he acts up and doesn't listen and does everything I ask him not to. When we leave, he says, "Was I good? Can we go? What could I do differently and why does he do that?"
Well, he does it because you're trying to reward for good behavior. I never do that. When you reward for good behavior, what you're saying to your child is you're normally rotten. If you should happen to be good, you'll get a treat. It's a disaster. Also, you've just said to him, you make sure that you listen to and you respect the teacher. Don't say that. You're setting him up for failure. Imagine if your spouse said to you, make sure when you go to your work, you're nice to your boss and make sure that you're respectful. It's patronizing. It's insulting. Okay, that's why he's acting out, because he feels like a piece of poop, because that's how you're making him feel when you talk like that.
I can understand where parents come from when they do this method, though, because it does feel, I think that sometimes the consequences can feel negative and you feel like I'm doing something positive because I'm rewarding. So I do understand the thought process.
I do too, but I often talk about this, why I really can't stand reward charts for good behavior. They may work in a classroom because that's not personal. A lot of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists. I want to make it clear I could never do their jobs, but those relationships are business. They're very different from personal parenting. There's no master's degree in parenting. Okay, it's just experience-based or whatever. So, but yeah, a lot of parents seem to think that a reward chart is encouraging good behavior. It's the exact opposite. It's sending the wrong message. A reward chart for good behavior says you're normally rotten. If you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. In other words, being good is not your normal. That's an expectation that I'm hoping you meet, but you might not. Okay. Now, a behavior board sends the exact opposite message. It says you're normally great, but if you should happen to make a bad choice, we're going to come in with a consequence. See the difference? It's huge. Like I said, think about it this way. What if your spouse said to you, look, if you're good at dinner tonight and you're a nice girl or a nice boy, later on you can have dessert. Think about it. It's so patronizing. And your kids, I'm their voice. They can't articulate that, but the feeling is the same. It's insulting.
How would you approach that then if they're not listening during piano lessons?
Well, then I would put down on the behavior board, I would say during piano lessons, you have to be respectful and follow along and be respectful towards the teacher. I would never say that about a parent, okay? But you want them to listen to teachers. You want them to listen to coaches, okay? You can put that on a board, but you cannot say, listen to me. Don't even question that, because it would take me 2 hours to explain that. It's a completely different relationship. One's personal, one's not. It's just completely different. So you say you have to be respectful towards the teacher, and if you're not, there'll be a consequence. So use the behavior board. It's completely free on the website, BratBusters.com.
The next one is Adriana from the United Kingdom. Could you give some examples for the behavior board for a 9-year-old? The main thing I struggle with is his attitude and ignoring what he's being asked to do, but we're not supposed to put attitude-related things on the board? ?
Okay, if he's not doing what he's supposed to do, then put it on the board. An example would be put your dishes in the dishwasher before leaving the kitchen. So as soon as he's finished eating, he has to put his dishes in the dishwasher. And if he leaves the kitchen and doesn't do that, then you say, oh, okay, well, let's go to the board. Remember, your rule is this, he might run and do it, then it's too late. He already left the kitchen. You got to be very specific with that, okay? So then there's a consequence, and the consequence could be he has to clean up the dishes that need hand washing or something within 15 minutes of being asked to do so. That could be an appropriate consequence. By the way, the punishment or consequence does not have to fit the crime, but that one would be a handy one. He can clean up something in the kitchen as his consequence. Okay. And then if he doesn't do that, then there's like 24-hour media blackout, something like that. So that's a really good way to deal with that, because we can address actions. We just can't address attitude. An attitude says you're not a leader. And if they have a bad attitude and they're rude to you, that's on you. You caused that, not them. Don't blame them for their bad attitude. Look in a mirror, say, what did I do wrong and what can I do right? Like when I was working with kids, and I specialize in troubled teenagers, and when I was working with them as a mentor, if they were rude to me, and when I first started getting respect in the first couple of weeks of meeting them, if they were rude to me, I always thought, what am I missing here? What am I doing wrong? Was it my fault? No, because they weren't my kids or anything, but I still took full responsibility. Leadership leads, and you don't blame other people if things aren't going well. You always take full responsibility.
Where's the cutoff point with the attitude? Like, when do you start going, this is the kid?
Well, I never have.
Okay, hypothetically, if I rolled my eyes at you, would you still go, what did I do?
At 30 years old, you
Mhm.
rolled your eyes at me?
Yeah.
I'd just say, you just rolled your eyes at me, and I go, what the heck's going on?
Yeah. I just want
But we
to,
don't have that kind of relationship, so.
I know, but I'm thinking, like, where is that cutoff point where the bad attitude
Where
is
it
more
is
out of your
them?
control?
Maybe 25?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because maybe about 25, 21, 25, around there. If they have a bad attitude towards me, I kind of, even though they have a lot more control, I still choose to blame myself. I still choose to think, what did I do wrong?
Good to know I'm at the cutoff.
Yeah, you're at 30. Whereas now we just laugh. We often roll our eyes at each other. It's always business related. So, when she's going on about marketing, I have no interest in it. She's rolling her eyes. Yeah. Or
Okay.
I'm rolling my eyes, I mean. Okay.
The next one is Amanda from the United States. I have a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl and an 8-month-old girl. And after listening to many of your podcasts, I see a lot of areas I can improve to be a leader I want to be. And after implementing some of the stuff, I've learned it's already making a difference, especially with my son, who's been extremely defiant with me and disrespectful. Something I'm still confused on is if only one thing is on the board, but they do other things that are not good behavior, how do we handle those? Is a timeout like the pool story, or is it a consequence? Thanks for your information.
Okay, the pool story was not a timeout. That was time with me. Timeout is done alone in a corner, so it's completely different. That was time in connecting with me. Okay, totally different. And I lost track. What was the question? What was the big question? Oh, shoot, I forgot again. I almost had it for a second there. What was the question?
So if it's not on the board.
Oh, it's not on the board. Okay. So what we're doing is, when I'm teaching you, like, okay, if I went into a home and I had to deal with a bunch of kids, I would deal with everything right away, instantly. Okay. But I'm level 10 with what I teach, because I invented all this stuff. Plus I have no history with those kids, right? So, and I'd come in with a lot of confidence, calmness, and I'd play with them. Okay. Now, the reason why we only deal with one behavior at a time, and that behavior board is just focused on that one rule and those consequences, it's the training wheels. We're teaching you how to master one battle, one behavior, one rule at a time. The rest of the stuff, do whatever you were doing before. I don't even care. Okay. Do whatever you were doing before. And don't even worry about it. That's not the sign of your new leadership. If you were to try and dress everything at once, you'd crash and burn. It just wouldn't work. By week 2, we have 2 behavior boards, so 2 rules, because you're getting better at it. By week 3, we have 3. Then we deal with everything, because we're just building your skill level with this stuff. That's all we're doing. The kids' behavior really doesn't matter much to me. It's, are you following through and making that behavior board work? It doesn't mean that the kids aren't breaking rules. It just means that you're following through with the consequences. And they're going to start to follow along. You lead, they will follow. It just happens. But you got to earn that. Everyone wants to get respect, but they don't want to earn it. You got to work for this stuff. I worked my butt off with kids, especially the troubled teens I was working with. I earned it. I worked for it. Okay. But I gave respect to get it. I never expected it. I earned it.
Okay, the next one is Joanna from the United States. My almost 3-year-old, so they're 34 months, has been acting aggressive behavioral issues at daycare, and that seems out of character. The teachers have said he is hitting kids and teachers, running away when they've asked him to stop, and he does not listen. He's not following directions. When he is at home, we try to correct this behavior and have not seen any of the aggressive acts they say are happening. As for his listening, he's not perfect, obviously because he's a toddler, but he does a good job the majority of the time. We're not sure what else we can do because it is hard to try and correct the aggressive behavior at daycare when it's not around us or at home. Do you have any tips for working with the daycare to correct this child's behavior?
The reason that usually is happening is because things aren't focused around him. He's not getting all the toys. He's not getting his own way. At home, they're not usually competing for toys and they've got all your time and it's just different. They usually have a little bit more spoiling at home usually. So that's why he's acting out at school. I would say set up some scenarios where he doesn't always get his own way. So set up scenarios specifically, you say we're going to do something that you know he doesn't want to do and then follow through with that with consistent corrective actions. So set up a system like bedtime. Get the bedtime cemented, get school morning routine cemented. I've got lots of videos on all this stuff. Okay. So you want to set up scenarios where he doesn't feel like he's the center of attention and he's in control. He just feels like he's in control at home and at school he isn't. So I think that he feels a little bit more like he's in control of you.
Okay, the next one is anonymous. So my boys are ages 12, 10, and 7. They all get good grades and behave okay in school, other than a couple of instances with my youngest at school. I'm working on my leadership. At times, my 7-year-old will get angry, such as when the older brother makes a mean or snappy comment, and if the 7-year-old tries to hit him, I will stop that from happening. Or he may get upset at a game or activity he's doing. Occasionally, less than half the time, what comes next is he will hear me giving him a consequence or setting a timer, and he will grab my arms and dig his fingernails or hit me and step on my foot. I get very overwhelmed, but I try to stay very calm by just saying no and restraining and preventing. When we first started using timers and consequences, he did them always with no trouble at all for about a year. I feel the main issue could be that our 12-year-old is treating them both poorly, but none of the other kids have scratched me, etc. The 7-year-old has only done it once recently with my husband, who yells some. Would you separate them? How do I not feel so emotional and keep giving out what seems to be a ton of consequences for the 12 and 7-year-old?
I have no idea why you're going after the 7-year-old. I'd be going after the 12-year-old. I go after the instigator, not the retaliator. You're going after the one who feels unjust. He feels like he's being attacked. He's being teased or tormented or whatever. And you're going after him for reacting. The reason he's reacting the way he is he feels that there's injustices and he doesn't feel heard. Okay. So it doesn't mean that you completely ignore his biting or kicking. You can say no kicking or whatever on his, but you go after that 12-year-old and you say, look, no teasing your brothers. Just say that and say, I'll decide when that's happened so that he can't argue it. If you put down no teasing your brothers, I will decide when that's happened. And then make sure you got to be on top of this. You got to be watching it. You got to figure it out. Okay. You got to figure out what's really going on. But yeah, you're going after the wrong kid.
Okay. That was everything on my end.
Okay. I think that's it. I felt like that was pretty, I'm happy with that. We've got 6 more of these videos to go explaining what BratBusters is all about. But I also want to say this is a family business. I've been doing this for 20 years. And my daughter, Amy here, she just came on board full-time a year ago. And so she does all the marketing, all the planning. If you're doing comments or direct messages, that's all her. She does run some stuff past me, but not much at all. And I never change anything she runs past me anyway. It's a family business. I've got 2 kids. I've got a grandchild. And but yeah, it's very much a family business. It's a caring field. I love what I do. I've been dealing with kids for 50 plus years, mentoring them, volunteering in daycare centers, babysitting, volunteering in schools, hospices, institutions for kids who've been, detained, teenagers. So I love this. I've always found kids and teenagers fascinating because I figure if we can figure them out, we've got ourselves figured out because we all started there. So I find them fascinating.
I think that's a really great place to end it. And I mean, it's going to be a little out of our routine, but keep an eye out for the podcast tomorrow and the next day and for the next 7 days. So we will see you tomorrow, which is unlike us.
That is. Okay. So we'll talk to you then. Happy parenting.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out BratBusters.com to learn more about the Behavior Board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit BratBusters.com/disclaimer.